So welcome back. I think today is book 14.
Yeah, excited to introduce quickly becoming one of my favorite authors. His name is Eric Weiner, and the book is called The Geography of Bliss. It's one Grump search for the happiest places in the world. This guy, his name's Eric Weiner. It's a part travel memoir. It's really funny. He's a really humorous writer. He's like a philosopher. He's like a traveler. He uses his travels and his journaling to kind of be like a self-help for himself. For this particular journey, he does this with multiple other books that we have coming down the pike in the future. This particular book is called The Geography of Bliss, and he's on a search for, is there a specific geography where people are happier? And if so, what are the characteristics that make up that geography? Is it people in Switzerland happier because it's the most democratic nation in the world? Is it people in Qatar who have just a ton of money? Do they find joy in all the cash? Is it the king of Bhutan and his visionary for calculating the gross national happiness of his citizens? Is it Asheville, North Carolina, and their unique culture? Is it Silicon Valley? Is it wherever? Like, he goes to a bunch of different places and he researches them and he learns more about them and he understands like what does make us happy. And he goes through a lot of different factors of psychology and science and joking around. And it's a really fun journey. And this is why I love Eric Weiner's books so much, because they're just fun journeys. Like, I don't ever really remember a ton from them because he goes through so much, but it's just enjoyable as hell. I have a smile on my face the whole entire time, and I just love going through books with his books. So I highly recommend it. Have you read any of Eric's books?
No, I have not.
Okay, so I think you would enjoy the journey. They're fun. But so this particular reflection is, off of the book, is The Geography of Bliss, right? It's talking about like what makes us happy. So, the reflection title is what does make us happy. So for me, I started off this reflection kind of half joking, saying, first off, I have no idea, and who the hell really knows? That's one of my core values is humility. And when I say humility, it's not like, oh, I'm humble or something. It's I don't know anything is humility. Like, it's absolute ignorance almost, of like we've talked about this a lot of I don't know anything.
And that's the truth.
Right. That's a fundamental truth,
Yeah.
So my answer is I don't know. And I think Eric's answer is I don't know. He was exploring if geography had any bearing to that. But second, if I had to guess, I think, like I was talking about with Eric Weiner's books, they're just really fun and effortless journeys and adventures, and you learn so much. And I was like, maybe that's what really makes us happy. It's learning and taking a journey. So like myself personally, I don't think that there's any where in the world, like where as in like geography or place or time or whatever, where I personally need to be in that setting to feel my happiness, my happiest. I mean, yeah, a beach in Oahu, on the North Shore of Oahu in Hawaii is great. I'm sure I could be happy there. Like traveling through Paris and going to different, wine and crepe shops or something like that sounds cool, but like, I don't know if that's, makes me happy. That isn't what makes me happy. I think it goes back to that whole, it's learning and taking a journey. What makes me happy is what we're doing right now. It's connecting with people that I care about and that I value their opinion, and sharing knowledge that we both have learned on our own journeys. So it's talking about books like this. It's sharing ideas. It's helping each other. It's, living your core values. That's what really makes me happy. And I can do that anywhere and anytime and any place. And, that's kind of my general takeaway from this book and from this whole journey really is like, I think you can be happy anywhere. I think happiness really comes from what you're doing and who you're doing it with. And, that's my take. So I'd love to get your thoughts. The question that I posed to anyone listening and to you would be, what's your thoughts on what I just talked about? And then the question was when, where, and with whom are you the happiest in your own life? So yeah, I'd love to get your take.
For this book, from what you mentioned, it sounds like my cup of tea. I do like books like this. My thought on this topic in itself, I mean, like you say, you don't know anything, and I probably don't either, but I do have a hypothesis. So my hypothesis is that I think if you're doing what you're made to do, you'll be happy. If you're a beaver and you get to dam, you'll be happy. If you're a writer and you get to write, you'll be happy. And if you're a sculptor or a painter and you get to do what you're made to do, you're happy.
Right.
So the geography of bliss, I think, is one part your mental state. If you ask for the where, that's what I say would be my happiness. The when is when I get to do the things that I'm made to do. Whether I'm a coder, I'm happy and I'm content. When I'm coding, I can be in a cave. and I still be content because I get to go.
Right.
And so for me, that's my hypothesis. And I think geography does play a small part because, for example, you say, well, people in Switzerland. Well, I mean, if you're talking about you get to do what you would like to do, but if the environment is not allowing you to build a dam, for example, for the
Right.
beaver, it
Exactly.
makes it difficult for him to do what he wants to do.
Can a beaver dam in the desert? I don't think so, right? You
Exactly.
know, there's no trees and there's no rivers and there's no
Yes,
so I do think environment does matter. Like
it
infrastructure
does.
matters.
Just
Right.
because, for example, you say, I can be in Paris enjoying the cafe and the baguettes and scenery, but if I'm not with my wife or with the person I want to be with,
Right.
then I'm not going to be enjoying that scenery. I'm going to think about what that person's doing right now, whether she's halfway across the world or not.
Yeah.
So the environment does makes it, but at the same time, it's not the only thing. So for me, I think we have to figure out what environment does encourage that.
Right.
For democracy, it does encourage you to become who you are, become have a freedom to kind of reflect on what makes you happy and doing that versus in other countries where you're told to do a certain thing, you know, like in other country you're told to be, hey, I need a Olympic swimmer, so you are going to be chosen as the baby that's going to start training before she can even talk,
Right.
or you know, to be a figure skating. And so in those environment, and you're not able to control that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, you know, having like, I mean, because you mentioned Switzerland, right? You don't mention like, hey, you know, I'm in Iraq, I'm in the Middle East, and third world country somewhere in Nigeria. You don't think that place is happy
Mhm.
because those conditions are not favorable to foster the freedom to
He actually goes.
express you.
He actually goes to Qatar, you know, where everybody's like incredibly wealthy and they're miserable. They're like, I hate this place. Like, you know, yeah. It was actually really funny when he went to Qatar. The I can't remember if it was the Geography of Genius or the Geography of Bliss. It was another book that he wrote was called the Geography of Genius. So like, is there a specific time geography and you know whatever, but for that produces genius versus you know happiness. I think it was the Geography of Bliss, so I may be getting my books mixed up here, but he talks about Iceland to your point of infrastructure. And we were kind of talking about this yesterday around our ideas with Clubany. You know, the people of Iceland are supported. They have security, they have safety, they have a living wage. You know, they know that they can fail and somebody will pick them up and they'll be there for them. Right. You know, so they're not scared of the necessities of life. Like, you know, they're not trying to find food or shelter or whatever to figure out if I can be happy. So they have that baseline taken care of, and then they have a safety net if they fail to always feel safe to try, right? You know, to go do that meaningful work. So like they have a per capita of like 10% or something like that of the population is a published author. And that's mind blowing. You're like, how is that even possible?
Of the populations is a published author. It's unheard of.
Right. I mean, he asked these people, I can't remember which book it was, but he asked them like, you know, why, like, hey, why do you want to do this? And they're like, well, I feel like I see all these people around me that are trying their hardest to get their voice out there and to show who they are out there and to be themselves and reflect that through whatever work that they're doing. And then they're like, and then the most important thing is I'm not scared to try because I know if I fail, like I have an infrastructure of Iceland in general as the nation that they're like, I can do that, you know? And I think that's an important call out to all this is like, you can go learn and grow and take the journey you and I are doing. We're supported. You have a safe life and a home. You have a great family. You've made money. You know, me, I have a great job, family, home, all that other good stuff, right? We have health insurance, like all these things, right? We have those necessities met where we can do this stuff, or we can go read 365 books and write reflections on this and share this conversation. And that's what really makes us happy. But those underlying conditions can't be ignored, I would say. But I don't think that is specific to a geography is my call out because we're not in the same location.
Well, I think geography in general plays a part, right? So it's not always a, hey, you know, you go to this place, you be happy. It has to foster that conditions. And I think the conditions is what kind of parameters input that will give you the ability to express who you are, because who you are is unique as a person. Your unique combinations of DNA make you you, and that person has a certain affinity for something. Somebody is affinity for playing football, like Patrick Mahomes, right? He's just natural at it. Somebody who is natural at reading people's emotion. They can sense somebody's slightest sadness or happiness. There's certain people who are logical, and for me, I'm more of the logical side. I can't feel the emotion as sensitive to other people's emotion as other people would. But I have on the flip side, I'm more methodical. I'm very single threaded. I can only do one thing at a time. Like I do a single task, but I do them well. I can't multitask, but I can do a single task very well. Because I'm going to ask you, well, if you're missing a step, it's blatantly to me that it's missing. Because that's what I'm focused on.
You're paying attention.
And so every one of our combination of DNAs make us who we are. And if we are allowed to do that, then I think that happy. So whatever conditions that favors that would be in general a geography that you want to be in. And I bet that Iceland has a high happiness index.
They do. Actually, now that I think about it, it was Iceland in this book, because when he starts off the book, he goes to somewhere where he gets this like happiness index or whatever, somewhere in Europe, I think, and maybe like Denmark, where there's like this like happiness index, or whatever. And Iceland always consistently ranks as like one of the highest in the world. And to your point, like Iceland sucks. Like it can be a beautiful country, but it's cold. Half the year is dark as hell. Literally the sun doesn't shine for like half the year. It's a rugged terrain. It's not Hawaii. Fiji's the most happy place in the world, or New Zealand or something. It's somewhere where it's just like majestic beauty, where you can just get sucked in all day.
Yeah, but hey, you in Paris, France, but you think about something else in some place elsewhere, because you don't have the ability to express yourself. You don't have the people that you want to be there with you.
That's the key. For me personally, the whole beaver analogy is great, but like a beaver, the thing that we have over a beaver is we're versatile. We can go anywhere.
Well, we're more complex than a beaver, and a beaver, in our sense, is just to simplify a concept, an idea. But yes, we are much more complex than a beaver, because there's multitudes of facets and inputs that make us happy. And to a beaver, it's very simple. You give a
well, we don't know. We don't actually know that it's really simple for them to be happy. I mean, they could be really complex as well.
Yes,
I guess my thinking along those lines though is like we have this amazing mind where our mind can be anywhere and we can be happy. Like if it's the desert, if it's under the sea, if it's in the space station.
The thing is, people, you have to understand that there's nothing like, for example, like some people hate the cold, but I see a lot of people, especially the females, the women in where I see, they love to wait for the day when they can put on those long boots.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, so the thing is, without the cold, for example, the cold is not desirable, but then there are people who wants it. They say, well, they buy this nice long boots and they store it like, especially in Houston, in Texas, there's probably like maybe 20 days of cold weather, and the rest is just hot. Yeah. But they do that. They buy these nice shoes, boots, and like those long boots that go up to the knee. Yep. I see like when the moment the cold hits Houston, I swear, like everybody, all these ladies are coming out with nice long boots, and it looks good. I appreciate that, but it's like I said, there is some good in everything. You just have to, I guess, because you can't actually wear the boots if it's never get cold.
Right. Yeah. Right? No, I'm with you. Yeah.
So there's no beauty that comes out of it.
Yep. But it's not the boot that makes them happy. It's the fact that
they can wear it.
Right. But no, I'm with you. No, it's an interesting question, and I highly recommend this book. I mean, I highly recommend all of Eric Weiner's books. I mean, I think he's an awesome author. And I don't know where I actually found this, but I'm glad I stumbled upon him, and he's awesome. So yeah, good conversation for the day. I guess the question we can leave everybody with is, when, where, and with whom are you happiest in your own life? Something to ponder and think about. Like, what are you doing? Who are you with? Where are you at? Just something to think about, and
Right.
maybe figure out a little bit deeper into that.
Question to that is, do you think you can find happiness?
Is happiness even possible? That's a good question.
So with that, we'll bid you adieu, and we'll see you next one.
Sounds good.
See you.